The future of jobs is changing. Technology, economics, and the green transition are reshaping the job market by 2030. The Future of Jobs Report 2025 brings insights from over 1,000 global employers. Want to get this valuable report? Comment "report" below. Now let's dive into the report.
You know, it's funny sometimes, isn't it? I mean, how fast things are changing in the working world. Like it feels like you're always trying to keep up with tech, with the economy. And it can be hard to know what really matters for, your future and work. Or even like the direction of your whole company.
Yeah, for sure. It's like we're drowning in information.
Yeah.
The hard part is figuring out what's really going to change things, like what trends are going to totally reshape jobs in the next few years.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking at the Future of Jobs report, the 2025 one from the World Economic Forum.
Okay.
And this isn't just like some random opinions. This report, they surveyed over 1,000 employers, representing a whopping 14 million workers.
Wow.
All across tons of industries and economies.
Yeah.
So they're not just talking out of thin air when they talk about the future. They've got some serious data backing it up. And they got help from some big data companies too, like ADP, Coursera, Indeed, LinkedIn.
Oh, wow. Yeah, those are some big names.
So yeah, it gives their findings some real weight.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's what's so cool about this report. Like, it's so big. It gives us a real global view of what's coming, specifically looking at like 2025 to 2030.
Exactly. And our mission today for you listening is to pull out the most important stuff from this giant report.
Yeah.
You know, we want to save you the time of reading hundreds of pages.
Yeah.
And help you really get what's changing in the job market and the skills you're going to need.
Right.
So you can navigate it all successfully. Okay, so let's break this thing open. What are the really big trends, the ones that are going to transform things? What did the report find?
Well, they highlighted a few really powerful forces that are at work. Probably the most important one overall is the fact that more and more people are getting digital access. A full 60% of employers think this is going to totally change their businesses by 2030.
Wow.
And it's really like the foundation for a lot of other advancements in tech. Like, it's the basic infrastructure that everything else needs.
Got it. So it's like the groundwork for everything else to grow. And speaking of other technologies, AI and information processing are seen as like massively transformative. A huge 86% of employers agree on that one.
Wow.
Robotics and automation are right behind them at 58%. And then you've got all the advancements in how we make, store, and use energy at 41%. Sounds like technology is the main thing pushing all this change.
Yeah, no question. And the interesting thing here is that these technologies are kind of doing two things in the job market. They're not just getting rid of jobs, they're creating totally new ones. Yeah. And they're driving a ton of demand for very specific tech skills.
Right.
We're talking things like AI and big data expertise, cybersecurity know-how, and just like a general comfort level with technology.
Right. That makes sense. So it's not just about robots taking over our jobs. It's about the types of jobs changing and the skills we'll all need. Now, the report also talks about some trends that aren't just about technology. The rising cost of living, for example, is seen as the second most transformative trend overall, and the top economic one. Right. With half of employers saying they think it'll cause major changes.
Yeah, and even though global inflation is supposed to go down, the pressure on prices is still a big worry for businesses, especially for things like services and in lower income countries. It's kind of interesting, actually, this economic uncertainty, it actually links to the growing demand for skills like creative thinking and resilience. When things are unpredictable, you need people who can think outside the box and adapt to all the changes.
That's a good point. You've got to be resourceful, and you've got to be able to adapt when the economy is up and down. Now, the green transition gets a lot of attention in the report too, doesn't it?
It does.
Climate change mitigation and adaptation are both seen as really big trends.
Oh, absolutely. Climate change mitigation comes in third for how transformative it is overall, and climate change adaptation is sixth. This is definitely creating a need for certain green jobs. Think about things like renewable energy engineers, environmental engineers, specialists in those electric and autonomous vehicles. And it's not just those specific jobs either. Environmental stewardship itself is now one of the top 10 fastest growing skills, which tells you that a focus on sustainability is becoming a part of a lot of different roles.
I see. So sustainability is becoming a core part of many jobs, not just a niche thing for specialists.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what about all the changes happening with populations around the world? Those demographic shifts, I mean, the world's population isn't just staying the same.
Right. And the report points out two main demographic trends. In wealthier countries, there's an aging population, and the working age population is shrinking.
Right.
40% of employers think this is going to be a big change for them. And of course, that means there's more need for skills in talent management. Like, how do you keep experienced workers around and help them grow when there are fewer younger people coming in?
Right.
So there's more need for teaching and mentoring for skills related to motivation and self-awareness in teams. And a really big need for healthcare jobs like nursing to help take care of the aging population.
So fewer younger workers coming in means we need more people who can support and care for the older population.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What's the other side of this demographic shift then? What's happening elsewhere?
Well, in lower income countries, the working age population is actually growing. About 25% of employers see this as a big change. And it's boosting the need for jobs in education, especially teachers in higher education. Now, there's a potential advantage here, a bigger workforce that could help the economy grow. But the report also says there's a risk that we won't create enough jobs for all these new workers, and that could cause some social and economic problems.
So it's really different depending on where you are in the world. Each region has its own economic situation.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've got all these big trends that are changing how we work. What does all this actually mean for the types of jobs we'll have in the future?
Yeah.
What does this report say the overall outlook for jobs is?
The big picture is they think there will be 170 million new jobs created globally by 2030, but also a lot of jobs, 92 million, will be displaced. That's a pretty big change, 22% of the labor market. The overall result is we'll probably see an increase of about 78 million jobs, which is around 7% growth. So there's growth for sure. But underneath it all, there's a lot of movement and change happening.
So more jobs overall, which is good news.
Yeah.
But a lot of shifting going on within the job market. So let's get specific. What are the fastest growing jobs? Like in terms of percentages, the ones that are really going to take off?
It's really the tech sector that's at the top of this list. Roles like big data specialists, fintech engineer.
Fintech engineers.
Yeah, these are the engineers that focus on the tech behind financial services. AI and machine learning specialists, software and application developers. But it's not just about pure tech either. We're also seeing fast growth in things like autonomous and electric vehicle specialists, environmental engineers, renewable energy engineers, security management specialists,
Right.
data warehousing specialists, UX designers. Those are the people who focus on the user interface and experience of digital products.
Got it.
See a pattern here. The fast growth isn't just in coding anymore. It's a lot about managing and securing all the data created by AI. And also in those crucial areas of sustainability and transportation.
Yeah, that makes sense. It fits with the trends we talked about, the rise of AI,
Yeah.
the push for a greener economy, and the need for more security in a world that's both more connected and more divided.
Exactly.
So what about the jobs with the biggest growth in actual numbers, the ones that are going to employ the most people?
Well, here's where we see something a bit different. The tech jobs are growing super fast, percentage-wise, but the biggest growth in actual numbers is in more traditional areas. Think about jobs like farm workers, delivery drivers, construction workers, salespersons, food processing workers. It's interesting, though, jobs in the care economy, like nursing professionals, social work and counseling professionals, personal care aides, those are expected to grow a lot, too. Mostly because of those demographic shifts we were talking about. And finally, teaching jobs in high schools and colleges, those are expected to grow a lot in terms of numbers. So even though those cutting-edge tech jobs are expanding fast, we're still going to need lots of people in those essential jobs.
Right.
You know, the ones that maybe aren't as glamorous, but are super important and often require people to actually be there in person interacting with others.
So while all the exciting new tech jobs are getting the attention, it's clear that many of those fundamental jobs are still going to be big employers. Okay, let's flip things around now. Which jobs are expected to decline the fastest?
Well, there are definitely some roles that are predicted to shrink a lot. We're looking at things like shop salespersons, power production plant operators, managing directors and chief executives, human resources specialists, general and operations managers, financial analysts, mechanics and machinery repairers, heavy truck and bus drivers, even lawyers.
Wow, that is quite a mix. What's causing all these declines across so many different types of jobs?
It's a few things, really. Automation is a big factor for jobs like shop salespersons and power production plant operators.
Uh-huh.
Changes in what businesses need and how they're structured are probably affecting those management positions.
Right.
The fact that technology is getting so much better, including AI, means some tasks that used to be done by financial analysts and even HR specialists can now be done by computers.
Makes sense.
And the move towards a green economy is likely to impact things like mining petroleum and extraction jobs. And the list goes on: assembly and factory workers, client information and customer service workers, security guards, recruiters and technical recruiters, and lots of administrative and clerical jobs. It seems like any job where you do a lot of the same stuff over and over or that can be streamlined by technology is facing a potential decline.
So it sounds like efficiency and technology changing how businesses work are the main reasons for these projected job losses. So with all this growth and decline, what kinds of skills are going to matter most for those jobs that are growing? And which skills are more common in the jobs that are expected to shrink?
The report shows a pretty clear difference in the skills landscape. The skills they say are going to be needed most for those growing jobs include things like resilience, flexibility, and agility.
Okay.
That ability to adapt and learn when things change. Programming and technological literacy are definitely essential, as is resource management, knowing how to use your tools and resources well. Also a focus on quality control and strong analytical thinking skills.
Got it.
On the flip side, the jobs that are predicted to decline often rely more on physical abilities, manual dexterity, dependability in doing routine tasks, and a lot of attention to detail. It's a real shift away from jobs that are mainly physical labor or doing the same tasks over and over, and a move towards those thinking skills and the ability to adapt.
So a real move towards higher level thinking and being able to adjust and away from roles focused on physical work or repetitive processes. This sounds like it'll take a ton of effort to upskill and reskill the people we have working now. What does the report say about that?
Well, yeah, the size of this challenge is pretty huge. They estimate that if you think about the entire global workforce as 100 people, a whopping 59 of them would need some kind of training by 2030 just to adapt to these changes.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. The good news is employers think about half of those people could be upskilled in their current roles, so they can take on new responsibilities.
Okay.
And another third could be reskilled and moved into totally different roles within their companies.
That's good.
And this is really important, the report also says that about 11 out of those 100 people are probably not going to get the training they need.
Oh.
And that puts their future jobs at risk. The fact that a decent chunk of people might not get the training they need, that really highlights the potential for the skills gap to get even bigger and create like a two-tiered system of workers.
That's a really important point. Not everyone is going to have the same opportunities to upskill or reskill, and that could make the inequalities that already exist in the job market even worse. Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about skills themselves. What are the main skills that matter right now, and how are they predicted to change by 2030?
It's interesting, actually. The pace of skill disruption seems to have leveled off a bit compared to earlier reports, but it's still significant. Employers now think around 39% of workers' core skills will need to change by 2030,
Okay.
which is down a bit from the 44% they predicted in 2023.
So it seems like businesses are getting a little better at seeing these shifts coming and getting their workforce ready for them. So what are the core skills that are seen as most important right now in 2025?
Well, right now, analytical thinking and innovation, creative thinking, resilience, flexibility, and agility, those are all seen as essential. Then you've got leadership and social influence, technological literacy, which is basically just understanding how to use technology skills and AI, and big data, the ability to work well with others, self-efficacy, that's the belief in your own ability to succeed, good engagement skills, and ethical considerations. Those are all really important, too. It's interesting, some industries have their own specific core skills that are especially relevant. Like environmental stewardship is obviously a big one in the energy and utility sector.
Right, because they have a direct impact on the environment. And they have a responsibility for sustainability.
Exactly.
So how are those skills expected to change in terms of how important they are over the next 5 years?
Well, tech skills are predicted to see the fastest growth in how much they matter. Skills in AI and big data are at the very top of the list as the fastest growing in demand,
Okay.
followed closely by expertise in networks and cybersecurity, and then general technological literacy. But alongside those tech skills, things like creative thinking, resilience, flexibility, and agility, and having an attitude of curiosity and a commitment to lifelong learning, those are also becoming more and more important. So it's really about developing developing strong tech abilities, but also those essential human qualities that help us adapt, be innovative, and keep learning in a world that's changing so fast.
So it's really about having both strong technical skills and those uniquely human skills, the ability to adapt, learn, and come up with new ideas.
Right.
Are there any skills that the report says are going to become less important in the next few years?
Yeah, they say things like manual dexterity, endurance, and precision are expected to decline in importance. Basic reading, writing, and math, even though they're still fundamental in lots of jobs, they're also predicted to become relatively less important. Same with dependability being really focused on details and overall physical abilities. This really emphasizes the idea that we're moving away from routine physical tasks and towards jobs that need more complex thinking and adaptability.
So it reinforces the idea that we're shifting towards more complex cognitive skills and away from those more routine, physically demanding tasks.
Yeah.
The report also mentions something called an importance gap and a proficiency gap when it talks about skills needed for jobs that are growing versus those that are declining. What's the takeaway there for people listening?
Well, those gaps show us where individuals and organizations should really focus their efforts when it comes to upskilling and reskilling to make those job transitions smoother. Skills like resilience, flexibility, and agility programming, technological literacy, being able to manage resources well, focusing on quality control, and having strong analytical thinking skills. Those are way more important and need a higher level of skill in those growing roles compared to the jobs that are expected to shrink.
Okay.
What's interesting is the report also says there's actually a rising demand for specialized manual skills combined with some tech knowledge in certain growing fields. So it's not always a straight switch from working with your hands to purely digital jobs. Sometimes it's about having both those practical skills and some tech understanding.
So it's not always a clear-cut move from hands-on to completely digital. Sometimes you need a mix of practical skills and tech knowledge.
Right.
Now, generative AI is a big topic these days. How does the report see it impacting the skills we need?
They think generative AI right now is better at replacing tasks that involve theoretical knowledge and working with digital stuff.
Okay.
Things like basic data analysis, making first drafts of writing, and even some aspects of writing and math. But it's not so good at things that need physical action, nuanced judgment in tough situations, hands-on use of skills, and those really human interactions where you need empathy and understanding. So overall, the report focuses on the idea that AI will help us do our jobs better and faster. Augmentation is what they call it.
Okay.
Rather than completely replacing human workers in most areas. It seems like those things that make us human, our skills and abilities, those are still really valuable. And they'll probably stay that way for a while.
That's good to hear. It sounds like our human capabilities are still important in the changing world of work.
Yeah.
So to wrap up this part, how do all those big trends we talked about earlier actually drive the specific changes we're seeing in the skills we need?
Well, all those big trends, they each have an impact that directly affects the skills landscape. Like it's a chain reaction. Advancements in technology, of course, lead to more demand for skills in AI, cybersecurity, and analytical thinking. Geoeconomic fragmentation and all the tension in the world, those increase the need for cybersecurity experts to protect data and systems. And also human-centered skills like resilience and adaptability to deal with all the uncertainty.
Right.
When the economy is shaky, like with the cost of living going up, it pushes the need for creative thinking to find solutions and being more flexible to adapt to market changes. The green transition makes environmental stewardship more important across all sorts of jobs. And lastly, those shifts in demographics, like aging populations, those increase the demand for talent management skills to keep experienced workers teaching and mentoring abilities to pass on knowledge. And those really important empathy and interpersonal skills needed in healthcare and social support roles, it's all connected, you see. These trends aren't happening separately, they're always influencing each other. And that shapes the skills that will be most valuable in the future.
It's all interconnected. These global changes are really impacting the skills we'll all need. So let's move on to how companies are planning to react to all this.
Yeah.
What are employers planning to do? What are their main strategies?
Well, the report says employers are planning to spend more of their money on salaries. And this is mostly because they need to connect pay with productivity and performance, and also to stay competitive in attracting and keeping the best employees. The top strategies they're focused on are upskilling their current workforce so they can handle the new demands. Speeding up the adoption of automation technologies, hiring people who already have the new skills they need, augmenting their current workforce with tech and AI tools, and strategically moving their staff into different roles within the company. It's a multifaceted approach they're taking, combining investments in their employees with bringing in new talent and using tech to be more productive.
So they're investing in their current team through training, bringing in new people with specific skills, and using technology strategically to improve productivity. It's a combination of all those things. What are the biggest problems companies see themselves running into when they try to do all this?
The biggest one is that they just don't have the skills they need within their current workforce. Most employers say that's the biggest hurdle. Other big challenges include the company culture and people maybe resisting change, dealing with all the rules and regulations, and sometimes just not having enough data and the tech they need to make it all happen.
Right.
It's not just about wanting to make these changes. There are real practical and cultural obstacles companies have to face.
It's not just about wanting to change. There are real hurdles they have to get over.
Exactly.
So what role does the government play in all this? Especially when it comes to making sure there are enough people with the right skills.
Well, employers think the government has a really important role to play. The top things they want from the government are funding for reskilling and upskilling programs, and even for the government to directly provide these programs.
All right.
That's seen as the most important thing the government can do to help. They also think it's really important for the government to improve education systems at all levels to prepare future workers.
Got it.
So basically, companies realize they can't fix the skills problem on their own.
Right.
They need the government to help develop the workforce of the future.
So businesses are saying they need to work with the government to build that skilled workforce we need for the future. How are companies actually figuring out what skills people have?
Right.
Both potential new hires and the people they already employ.
Well, while work experience is still the main way companies assess skills, the report says they're putting more emphasis on skills assessments themselves. You know, those tests that show what someone can actually do.
Right.
And also psychometric tests.
Oh, yeah.
Which are tools that assess things like personality traits and how well someone thinks.
Right. Right.
It's interesting, though, they say college degrees are becoming less important as the main requirement for lots of jobs, which really shows that we're moving towards hiring based on skills, not just pieces of paper. It's becoming more about what you can actually do rather than just what qualifications you have.
It's about proving what you can do, not just showing a degree.
Right.
Makes sense. Now, with all this talk about AI, how are companies specifically planning their workforce strategies around these powerful new tools?
The main strategies are reskilling and upskilling their employees so they can work effectively with AI systems, hiring people who have specific skills in AI, like designing, implementing, and managing those tools, and rethinking their core business processes to take advantage of AI. A lot of companies are planning to hire AI specialists, but the report also says a lot of them think some jobs might be cut because AI can do some tasks that humans used to do. So it's a mix of embracing AI and being careful about how it might impact their workforce.
So they're excited about AI, but they're also being responsible about how it might affect their employees.
Exactly.
Now, the report also looks at some specific regions, economies, and industries. We can't cover everything, but are there a few examples that really stood out to you, like things that really show these broader trends in action?
Oh, definitely. Let's start with Eastern Asia. They're dealing with aging populations and slow economic growth, and those are the main forces shaping the future of work there. One big challenge they're facing is that people are resistant to change, which could make it harder for them to adapt. Japan is being hit especially hard by its aging population and shrinking workforce.
Okay.
That's leading to predicted growth in jobs like information security analysts and data analysts and scientists.
Interesting.
Vietnam is focusing on all the opportunities that come with digitalization and tackling climate change, but they're facing problems with skills gaps and a lack of infrastructure.
Okay.
Zimbabwe is expecting to see a lot of change in terms of skills, and they're focusing on upskilling their workforce in things like systems thinking, marketing, and media customer service, dependability, quality control, and even global citizenship. So you can see how different regions with their unique economic and demographic situations are experiencing these global trends in their own way.
It's fascinating to see how these global trends play out in different parts of the world, each place with its own challenges and priorities.
Yeah.
What about Europe? What were some of the key things happening there?
Well, across Europe, the main things they're focused on are digitalization. the urgent need to do something about climate change and the rise in cost of living. A big problem for lots of European countries is that they just don't have enough skilled workers in key sectors. Austria is really focused on automation to deal with these problems, but they're also seeing a growing need for skills related to motivation and self-awareness in their workers. France thinks jobs like security management specialists and software developers are going to grow a lot, but they also see more manual and administrative jobs like material recording clerks and data entry clerks shrinking. Ireland is really concerned about attracting talent, and they're working on policies to support caregivers and promote diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Lithuania sees skills gaps as a major problem, and they're investing a lot in reskilling programs. Portugal thinks they're going to need a lot of training for their workforce, and they're saying that skills like curiosity, talent management, leadership teaching, and mentoring and resource management are going to be really important. They want to reskill people to keep them from leaving and to help them take on new roles.
Right.
It sounds like all over Europe, the combination of technology moving so fast and the workforce getting older is creating a lot of the same challenges, especially when it comes to finding and training the right people.
So it sounds like Europe is dealing with both the rapid pace of technology and the demographic shifts we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
What about North and South America? Anything interesting from those regions?
Well, in Canada, the report says digital technologies, the effects of geoeconomic fragmentation, and the urgency of dealing with climate change are all having a big impact. They think jobs like security management specialists, AI and machine learning specialists, and software developers will grow a lot.
Oh, okay.
And they're focusing on helping their employees advance in their careers and reskilling them. In Latin America and the Caribbean, the main drivers are digitalization, all sorts of labor and social issues, and the increasing effects of climate change. The big barriers there are skills gaps, cultural factors, and problems with regulations. So they're putting a lot of effort into upskilling programs and using automation.
So we're seeing those global trends playing out again.
Yeah.
But the specific challenges and the solutions they're focused on are often tailored to what's happening in each region. It's really interesting to see how these big global trends are affecting them so differently in different parts of the world. What about different industries?
Yeah.
Were there any noticeable patterns or differences in how various sectors are thinking about and responding to all these changes?
Yeah, across lots of different industries, they all say that not having the skills they need is the biggest thing holding them back.
Uh-huh.
And pretty much everyone agrees that upskilling their workforce is super important. But there are some differences in how much they're focusing on automation versus helping their employees work better with technology.
Okay.
Like the electronics and insurance industries are more into automation as their main strategy. But in healthcare or government, where human interaction and special expertise are so important, they're not as focused on automation.
Right.
The report also says there's a big opportunity that most industries aren't really taking advantage of. That's the idea of moving people from jobs that are shrinking into jobs that are growing. Lots of companies seem to be focused on hiring new people or just training people for their current roles.
Instead of actually moving people into different jobs within the company.
That sounds like a missed opportunity to keep people with valuable experience and knowledge within the company while still adapting to change. Let's talk about a few specific industries to show what we mean. Advanced manufacturing, for example, is dealing with climate change and the rising cost of living. And that's increasing the need for skills in areas like AI and big data to make production more efficient. Also, creative thinking for new ideas, cybersecurity to protect their systems, and systems thinking for managing complex operations.
Yeah.
They're also trying to hire people from more diverse backgrounds, and they're trying to get older workers involved as part of their diversity and inclusion effort.
Right. And the infrastructure sector is being really affected by the need to reduce carbon emissions, adapt to climate change, and manage things digitally.
That's leading to growth in the need for people who specialize in big data for analysis and prediction and organizational development to manage all the changes that are happening. They also need more people with skills in AI and cybersecurity to handle smart infrastructure and talent management skills to find and keep the experts they need. Finally, telecommunications is being shaped by the increasing access to digital tech globally and the growing role of AI and satellite technologies.
Okay.
They're predicting strong growth in jobs like AI and machine learning specialists, big data specialists, and data analysts and scientists. They're also really focused on training their current employees and using automation to be more efficient. What's interesting is they're looking more at remote work across borders as a way to attract talent in a really competitive global market.
Right.
It really shows how each sector is being affected by these big trends in its own unique way, and that's leading to different priorities and strategies.
It really shows how differently those global trends are affecting different sectors. Well, we've covered a lot today. We've really dug deep into the Future of Jobs report for 2025. Let's sum it all up for everyone listening. What are the absolutely key takeaways they should remember as they think about their own careers or their businesses?
All right, so the main trends to keep in mind are more people getting access to digital tech, the super fast development of AI and other important technologies, the cost of living going up and up, the ongoing push towards a green economy, those big changes in population happening around the world, and all the complexity of a world that's becoming more economically divided. Those big forces are changing the types of jobs that are going to be in demand. There's going to be growth in jobs related to technology and the green economy, but also in essential services and jobs that involve caring for others. And the skills that are needed are changing quickly, too. There's a growing need for people who are good with technology, who can think analytically and creatively, who can bounce back from setbacks and adapt to change, and who are willing to keep learning throughout their lives. Companies are getting proactive, they're training their employees and focusing on hiring people based on their skills to deal with all these changes. This report really gives you a great overview of these important shifts and helps you get ready for the future of work.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought for you to think about. Given how fast AI is developing and how important those human skills are, how can you be proactive and not just survive, but actually do really well in this changing world of work? Take some time to really think about the skills we've been talking about today. And think about which ones are most relevant for you personally and professionally. What do you need to work on or explore further based on your interests, your skills right now, and your long-term career goals? The future of work isn't some far-off thing, it's happening now. And the best way to deal with it and take advantage of the opportunities out there is to be informed, be proactive, and be adaptable.